What's up, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a trade recap of the trade that I took on Tesla. Thursday, February 3rd, I took Tesla for a nice scalp when it made a new high a day, also went red to green and made $510 in just under 2 minutes. I had to really practice my patience on this trade. I waited till much longer into the day to finally take it versus usually when I'm trading pretty quick off the open. But I'm noticing recently that there can be some head fakes off the open, so letting a little bit of time go by can be a good thing and prevent big losses. And now let's get into the newsletter watch list. So I was watching Tesla, Facebook, Spotify, Netflix, and AMD. And then the left side of the screen, that's a screenshot of my private Twitter. So I'm writing a note every single morning going over the SPY and the Qs, an analysis of the overall market, all of the names and the stocks specifically that I'm watching, if there's any news tied to them, all the levels that I'm interested in trading around, and then I take a picture of the charts, green line being long, red line being short, and then I make sure to highlight those levels above. So this is my game plan every single day, and I post it on my private Twitter 30 minutes before the open. If you're interested in getting access to this, there's going to be a link in the description below. So now let's quickly go over the technicals, starting with Tesla. So I wrote that the 9 EMA on the daily continues to be resistance. It failed at it the prior day. More upside if the dip gets bought, clears pre-market high, thought it had room to prior day close, and more downside if it breaks pre-market low and it stays below, but it did have some support at 862 to 857. And now Facebook, so it got absolutely destroyed on earnings in the after hours. It can be tough to trade these big gap downs, but being that there can be increased volatility, I wanted to have it on watch. I figured that there could be more upside if it breaks pre-market high and it holds above because that gap was excessive. Maybe it could work its way into the upside gap. And then to the downside was going to be pre-market low. If it stays below that, felt like there was more room to the downside, but obviously trading those excessive gaps can be very difficult. So I wanted to be careful. And now Spotify, so the prior day, that was not a good candle, reported earnings, it was getting the gap down. So the levels that I wanted to trade around was if the dip got bought and it took out pre-market high and it holds above, maybe it could work its way into the upside gap. And I thought it had some room to prior day close at 190, 192 and more downside if it breaks pre-market low and it stays below. And also knowing that that prior support low was 164.41, it was a 52-week low. So if it broke that, I felt like it had more room to the downside. And now Netflix, so had the really big gap down, started to consolidate, found some support. Bill Ackman said he was buying shares in the company, really big 2-day move, and then had a reversal candle the next day. So coming in today, I felt like maybe there was more room to the downside, but I always want to be open-minded both ways. So I said that more upside if the dip gets bought and it clears pre-market high, felt like it had room to prior day close at 429.48, and then more downside if it breaks pre-market low and it stays below, with 400 being a big psychological whole number below. And now AMD, so it reported earnings the prior day and then it sold off all day, so not a good reaction to that news. I felt like today it had a chance to possibly sell off a little bit more, wanting to be open-minded both ways. So I wrote that more upside if it clears pre-market high and it holds above, does have resistance at 124 to 126, more downside if it breaks pre-market low and it stays below, and it also had an open gap to the downside on the daily at 117.26. And then just to touch on the mental notes, so there was a lot of stocks moving today. It's impossible to catch everything. 5 is about the max amount of stocks that I can watch. If I watch more than that, I end up catching a whole lot of nothing. So even though there was a lot going on, what I do is I just pick the 5 based on what I believe are going to provide the best opportunities. I commit to those, and then I don't worry about what everything else is doing. So now let's get into the actual trade, and you're going to notice that I waited 35 minutes before I took a trade. So just practicing patience. I didn't want to try to overly anticipate anything off the open. A lot of times those quick patterns off the open can be head fakes. That's where the losses can be big. I really wanted to wait for that setup to develop, get in at a good spot, and then like always, if it does not go in my favor quickly, just get out of the trade. So what happened off the open? Tesla had a really nice push higher, and then it stayed above the VWAP in the 9 EMA. High day was right around 903. Look at that consolidation. So the reason why I thought that this was a high probability setup is because the amount of time that went by prior to it making a new high day. Consolidation is key, and especially with Tesla. When Tesla trades sideways like that, and then it makes a new high a day, or vice versa, when it trades sideways and then it makes a new low a day, it usually gets some sort of follow through. How far it's going to go, I have absolutely no idea, but I'm a scalper. So I just get the quick move and I take quick profits. And it starts to speed up towards high a day, and I always want to take it just before the break. So I anticipated it a little bit right there, took the 905 calls, only 3 of them. Felt like it was smart to size down a bit just because it was later in the day, and I got filled at $16.50. Also went red to green, got a pretty nice move in my favor. And just in case if the rip got sold, because this market tends to turn pretty quickly, I sold the entire position on strength and I got rid of those contracts at $18.20 for a nice trade. And that was it for me. It was a one and done day and made $510 in just under 2 minutes. That was the trade recap. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool things I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is going to be what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every day. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a very quick highlight of the SPY, the Qs, the bigger picture, the upside level that I'm looking at, the downside level that I'm looking at, the market news or the catalyst that day. And then I'm going to list 4 to 6 names that I'm watching, my favorites that day, and then the catalyst behind them if there's any news, the bigger picture idea, what's going on the daily chart, and then the levels to the upside and the downside. And then I add some mental notes at the bottom, kind of what I'm thinking that day, make sure to keep my expectations in check and follow my process. And the second thing is going to be a one-on-one call. So if you want something that's less of a commitment and you just want to talk to me about my process and how I approach the market, this is going to be great. It's a one-on-one live call for 1 hour. So if you're interested in any one of these 2 things, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to check them out.